And so the first opening statement will be from Ron Luce. Ron?
Okay, thank you all so much. I'm very happy to be here. I want to begin by thanking the League of Women Voters and the Athens Public Library for hosting. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Executive Director for the Athens County Historical Society and Museum. So a couple of other things you might want to know about me. I am a court-appointed special advocate guardian ad litem and dealing with a number of children for the area. I'm on the board of directors for the Multicultural Genealogical Center. I'm a writer, an artist, and an actor. Well, the question really is, what am I going to be for you? And what I want to say is there are three key words that I'd like to call your attention to. Vision, passion, and leadership. That's what you're going to get from me. I am very concerned about our infrastructure, our safety, our cleanliness issues, and our economic development. And I have a vision of Athens, Ohio being the cleanest, safest, most beautiful city that you can find anywhere in this country, and I can get us there with your help, and that's my goal.
Thank you, Ron. Now we'll turn to Michael Bart.
All right. Does this thing work? All right. Check, check. That sounds good. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the public. Oh, no. Get an ear sign. Check, check. All right. Thank the League of Women Voters, the public library for hosting this event, the local media, and everyone in attendance. My name is Michael Bart. I first came to Athens, Ohio in 2001 to become a student at Ohio University. And once I graduated, I saw no reason to move away. If you told me 3 months ago that I'd be up here running for city council, I wouldn't have believed you. I follow local politics as much as the average Athenian, and I care very much about Athens. I just never thought about running for public office myself. And then one day in early February, Elihu Ghazni told me he was not seeking re-election. He asked me if I ever thought about running for city council. I took a few days to think it over and realized that I have a perspective that is common in Athens, but underrepresented on city council. And a little more background about myself. I graduated from the university with a degree in telecommunications. This gives me a greater understanding of technology. I'd like to see the city better use existing technologies to enhance its services and empower the community while respecting its privacy. We also need to update some of our ordinances to keep up with the times. I'm currently a manager at Avalanche Pizza, and I run my own DJ business. The most important thing about both of these jobs is customer service. My experience in the service industry will make me a better public servant and make for a more responsive government. I am new to politics, and I see that as one of my strengths. I've been attending city council meetings for the past few months, and I observe two problems. I don't see enough questions being asked. I think before any taxpayer money is being spent, we should ask lots of questions. I also do not see enough public involvement. I'd like to utilize social media to inform the public of what's going on and facilitate discussions and keep things as transparent as possible. I look forward to serving Athens, and I hope you'll consider voting for me.
Thank you, Michael. Now we'll turn to Steve Tatterson.
Thank you. I too want to thank the League of Women Voters for having this event, as well as the Athens Public Library. I sit and I reflect, and I'm listening to what a lot of the challengers and candidates are saying. One of the things that kind of keeps going through my head is that a year and 3 months goes really, really fast. It was 2 years ago that I stood up here and said, introduced myself, because a lot of you had never heard of who I am. I'm a retired Air Force vet. I am a farmer. I am an educator. I am a father of two beautiful twin girls whom I want to see grow up in a beautiful city. I think we on City Council, I on City Council, have been striving to make the City of Athens that way, improving city safety. Being the chair of JPAC, the Joint Police Advisory Council, one of our chief charges is to open dialogue between the City of Athens and Ohio University, and to kind of utilize resources that haven't been merged together before. Out of that came the first joint police cruiser. For those of you who have seen it, it's a beautiful cruiser going around with a really interesting tail flash on it, the paint scheme that is a joint cruiser going through the neighborhoods and helping bolster what limited resources we have. Serving on the Finance and Personnel Committee is another one of the committees I serve on. Being good stewards of your taxpayer dollars, making sure that we are able to use those dollars effectively, as well as making sure that we're able to go after grant sources. Because in this economic climate, one of the things that we need to be able to do and do it effectively is to go after state dollars, to go after federal dollars, to improve Oxbow Bridge, to improve the south side up Richland Avenue corridor. Our gateways to the city are one of the things that we're working very hard on doing. Again, in the time that I've been on, I've got a lot more I want to do, and those things I'm sure will come up during the questions that come up from you to be able to espouse those.
Thank you, Steve. Now we'll turn to Chris Nisley.
Good evening. Many thanks to the League and the library for hosting this event tonight, and to the media and all of you for being here and participating. I decided to run for council again because I love what I'm doing, and I think I can effectively build on my experiences. I'll briefly highlight areas where I've been working. Transportation successes in the recent past, with city staff and numerous grants, are an improved bus system with increased ridership of over 400,000 a year, a regional bus service, as well as an on-demand bus service, creation of a city bike plan, and expansion of the bike path. Major roadway and bridge repairs, including the roundabout, Carriage Hill, West State Street, North Court Street, Carpenter Street, as well as an annual street repairs that averages over $300,000 a year. Future projects include Oxbow Bridge, Columbus Road, Richland South, and our 5th year of grants for the Safe Routes to School. In arts and recreation, recent improvements at the main facility include new fans, lighting, solar panels, and we're now working on a long-range plan. I can build on the experience of serving on the Arts and Recreation Advisory Committee as we launch more vibrant arts and recreation facilities for our families. Finances for the city in the past few years have been reduced with cuts from the state. The city auditor and the administration have carefully built a budget that works within this reduced state funding. Yet during this time, we have worked to renew city contracts so that we can provide cost of living increases to our city staff, as well as expanding partner benefits. I can build on my finance committee chair experience and work with the administration and auditor for additional savings. With the university, I can build on the experiences of serving with the Memorandum of Understanding group, which can be a starting point for future vision. I believe I can make a difference in our community by serving Athens on City Council, and hope that you will likewise think the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Jennifer Cochran.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Athens Public Library for hosting this forum. My name is Jennifer Cochran, and I grew up in a family of librarians. My grandmother, my mother, and my aunt were all librarians, and so when I came to Athens as a grad student, I got my first job here in this building. So it is fitting that I am here tonight with you talking about our community and how we can continue to improve our town and our home. I'm a native of southeastern Ohio, and I have lived in Athens for over 15 years. I'm a licensed massage therapist and mother of 2. I earned a bachelor's degree from Otterbein and a master's degree from Ohio University, where I also worked at the Center for International Studies. After starting a family, I found that my priorities shifted and changed, so I left my job at Ohio University and went to Hocking College for a certificate in massage therapy. As a mother, I've honed my skills in conflict resolution, negotiation, as well as time and project management. I know that you can't always please everyone, but it's important to listen to your stakeholders, respect their opinions, and work towards shared goals. At Otterbein, I helped establish a chapter of Habitat for Humanity. After college, I spent 2 years in the Peace Corps in Armenia. I've been an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer and worked as a service director for City Year Greater Philadelphia. In recent years, I've been an active volunteer with many organizations, including Live Healthy Appalachia, La Leche League, and the Athens Time Exchange. My experience as a community member and volunteer have given me firsthand knowledge of community development in our part of Ohio and abroad. I welcome the opportunity to put my communication and project management skills to work serving Athens as a progressive voice. I believe that with choice comes opportunity. You have a choice when you cast your ballot on May 7th, and I hope that I'll be among your top 3 choices for Athens City Council at large.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now we'll turn to Michael McSteen.
Hello, my name is Michael McSteen. I live on 2nd Street in Athens. Is it this microphone or that one? With my wife and 2 children. One goes to West and one goes to the middle school. I have been here since 1986. I'm a graduate of Ohio University. I own my own small business. It's a web development business here in town called Athens Media Pros. I am a member of the West Side Community Association, which I see a couple members here today. I'd also like to thank the library and the League of Women Voters for having this opportunity to discuss the issues and hear from all the candidates. The reason I wanted to run for council is kind of a personal reason. My son walks to the middle school from 2nd Street. He goes down Lancaster Street. And if you've ever taken a walk down Lancaster Street, you can see that it's in kind of bad shape. There are parts where there's no sidewalk, no concrete, there's mud and runoff from the driveways, and it's been that way for a long time. Actually, in other areas around the West Side have been that way for a long time as well, and it kind of frustrates me. This was kind of the same issues that we were talking about when I was on council in 1999 from 2001. So I, not necessarily angry about it, but I am frustrated that some of these things are not getting done. So I'm looking to try to have an impact on the city government and city services and try to get a better quality of service, better quality of life for citizens of Athens. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Now we'll turn to representatives of media for the next 3 questions. And for this one, you candidates will respond in the same order in which you just have for the opening statement. And so, David DeWitt of the Athens News.
Thanks, Ellsworth. Oftentimes, issues involving zoning and development and things going on with what commercial interests want to do in the city come up before city council. And so my question is, what is your philosophy, or what would your philosophy be as a city council member in balancing the dynamic between entrepreneurial interests and neighborhood interests? Thank you.
I think that's a great question and a critical question, and those people who know me know that I have worked pretty hard on some zoning issues. First of all, we have zoning code which needs to be clear, it needs to be clearly understood, and it needs to be clearly applied to every single person who comes before anyone dealing with zoning. I think that the zoning needs to be looked at. We certainly don't want to discourage business. We want to increase economic development in the city, and I think we need to look at any codes that are getting in the way of that are unnecessary. We want to make sure that the codes are applied fairly and evenly across any situation where it comes up, and we want to do everything we can to encourage particularly clean business and businesses that are going to produce jobs here. And I think we have some examples of that, and I think we can make it work. I think we have the network infrastructure to create a tremendous economic development situation, particularly with businesses that operate online. And we have some examples of that, and if I had time, I could give you some. We need to have code that encourages businesses without allowing our infrastructure to be damaged in any way.
Thank you, Ron. Michael Bart, and this is 1.5 minutes, not that he didn't comply with it, but right ahead.
Okay, great. The question's about zoning, and I think that it's important that we have zoning laws that aren't so restrictive. I don't know if this is on anymore. That we have zoning laws that aren't so restrictive that they prevent people from opening their business within the city. I've talked to a few business people that have moved their businesses or started them outside the city limits due to some of the restrictions. So I think we should just be more friendly so we can get more opportunities for jobs to come here, while also respecting the environment. And there's a new zoning thing just came up. We're going to start marking more things as historically important sites, and I think that we should definitely protect certain things that add certain character to the city, but not necessarily every old building needs to be protected. There, needs to be room for progress. So I'm just looking for a balance of both things.
Thank you, Michael. Steve Patterson.
Could you quickly repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, as the city deals with, occasionally this will come up with if there's new development or something like that. And I wanted to know what your philosophy is approaching those types of decisions and balancing neighborhood interests with entrepreneurial interests.
Thank you. I too have been looking at code heavily, going through code, and one of the big things that has come up to me time and time again is being able to really define an R1, being able to truly define an R2, an R3, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I have done, in the past year and 2 months is to go through and look at some of the code that does need to be readdressed. If you think about it, code is a dynamic book. If you treat code as a book of ordinances, and they're constantly flowing, and I think to keep up with the times, there do have to be changes. One in particular is changing the vending code to add clarity to the vending code, but also to provide opportunities for economic development for an entrepreneur who wants to come in and open some new food buggy or food cart or something like that to try and strike into the possibility of kind of growing up into a larger permanent location somewhere. I think that we need to really carefully look through code to make sure that code reads as I think some people believe it should read. That's where I think the city and community, or the residents, need to contact the city council and kind of give us your interpretation of what code reads as we're going through the process of making things clear when it comes to economic development and neighborhoods.
Thank you, Steve. Christine Nisley.
Thank you. Regarding the zoning in this city, I know that the Planning Commission, I better have this.
So it might not be on.
Start over then. Planning Commission has been taking the time over the past few months to look at the zoning code, to review definitions, and to see what might be a possibility in a city that in many ways is built out in sections of the city. We do have business and manufacturing on East State Street, and I think several of the businesses have thrived out there. DHI is one example. The CGI, the Information Technology Company, that has come into town this past year. The expansion of the solar company on East State Street. But this doesn't mean that that's the only place that we can have businesses in the community. And I do think we can look at, in concert with the Planning Commission, look at different areas, look at small neighborhoods. Are there possibilities for small businesses? Many of us still miss the grocery store on Stimson Avenue. Are those kind of possibilities? Can we work harder to do that? I know the Planning Commission has looked at several developments that have attempted that. But I also think we need to balance this with our neighborhoods, because the quality of life in our neighborhoods is essential. And I know that there are people who work in their home, who their office is on the second floor in their bedroom and it's facing out into a neighborhood, so we need to assure that we have neighborhoods that have good quality of life for the individual residents. And I would put a plug in for Business Remix, the Economic Development Council. That's also a way in which the City of Athens is working with the county and other groups in the university to encourage entrepreneurship.
Thank you. Jennifer Cochran.
I think this is a tricky issue, and many people have said, the key word is balance. And I see the challenges of having zoning where businesses are very close to residences. As a resident of the far east side, I live just up the street from the rec center, and we get a lot of traffic from auto parts stores, trucks zipping back and forth through our neighborhood streets because it's easier than traversing State Street with certain intersections where they can only turn right rather than making a left-hand turn. So sometimes that's a concern when our children are out in the street potentially playing on their bicycles or their scooters, and traffic often moves very quickly through our neighborhoods. So I think, we need to work in partnership with our businesses so that we can support the life in our neighborhood and entrepreneurship in our community, because the two are so very interconnected, and we can't have one without the other. I think we also need to be more proactive about attracting the kinds of businesses that we would like to see thriving here in Athens, whether it's more sustainable development, such as the solar companies, wind, any kinds of sustainable energy I would love to see more of in Athens. So anything that we can do to be more proactive about bringing forward-thinking companies and organizations to Athens, I think would be a great step in the right direction.
Thank you. Michael McSteen?
As a small business owner, I probably lean more towards entrepreneurial interest, and I also believe that some of those entrepreneurial interests are a way to generate more revenues for the cities. If we can get more people working in town, I would strongly encourage it. I really like the Athens Works program that's going on Carpenter Street, where people have a shared work area where young entrepreneurs can come in, have some shared space, do some networking, and so forth. I'd like to see that happen around the city a little bit more. So I am in, when I go to other cities, I've been to Burlington, Vermont, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, and I like the neighborhoods there because there is a mixed development. There are apartments above a store, and people don't have to get in their car to drive to the mall or something. There can be some things. I would like to see more of that. I would have loved to have seen it with Palmer Place, if they would have had stores in the bottom of that area. That way, those people who are there could just go there and shop and so things. So I like a little bit more mixed development, and I would like to encourage more work going on here in Athens. So.
Thank you, Michael. The order of response for the next questions comes from a random number table, or at least a random process. I'll call it a random process. And so I see that each of you candidates have that list, so you know what's coming. So the first one will be Michael McSteen, Chris, Ron, Jennifer, Steve, Michael Bart. If you all agree with that, then you won't have me pestering you ahead, at least.
Quite all right.
All right. And for the second question, we'll turn to Sam Howard of the Post. Sam?
Over the past 2 years, the city has operated with about a $3 million carryover in terms of the funding that they're retaining. How does this affect your role on, if you would be on city council for another term? How does this affect your role and your judgment in how you appropriate funding for whatever it may be?
Well, there's all kinds of ways to spend money, and $3 million may seem like a lot in terms of city budget, but when you consider all the departments and all the resources that you have to manage, I don't think you can just take lump sums and start saying, hey, let's build a new playground, or let's build a new park here or there. They have to be distributed, and then the city has to work with some kind of fund that you don't touch just in case of emergencies. So I think what you have to do when you have funding like that, you have to look at priorities. And obviously we talked about infrastructure, and I think the council and the administration have been dealing with the water treatment plant, which I think we all agree is a necessity. So those types of things are kind of priorities. Obviously streets are a priority as well. And then that starts to dwindle down the monies. You hope to have some left over for improving the facilities, maybe hiring a new police officer, or a new patrol car, those types of things. So there are lots of ways to look at the budget, but I think you have to start to say priorities first. So.
Chris?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the city has been fortunate to have a carryover the past few years. I would need to go back to financial records to check if it's been as high as $3 million. I believe it was 2.4 this past year. And then what City Council needed to do the first session was to pay approximately $700,000, I think, of prior year bills. So that quickly reduces the carryover. Council, at the advice of the auditor's office and the state auditor, also enacted legislation to maintain a certain balance in the as a percentage of our cash, so that we have that in reserve. That's just safe, kind of a rainy day practice, and so we do need to maintain some of that. And then you'll have the occasional situation where a pump at the water treatment plant will go, and suddenly it's a $30,000 to $50,000 expense. Chimney repairs on the city, which we knew had to be done before bricks started falling, is $32,000. So I would agree that those kind of expenses can very quickly drain off the carryover. So I take the cautious approach and have a little bit in the bank account so we can provide for those kind of emergencies when we need to, along with prior year bills.
I would also agree that we have to be very cautious. I think a lot of people don't realize how complex our budget system is, and that it's not like this money is all sitting in one great big pot and you can just pick it out and use it for anything you want to. The budget makes it so that various monies are allotted for various things. You can't take one thing out of one fund and just drop it over into another fund because you want some money there. There are lots of rules and regulations, and I'm sure our auditor, Kathy Heck, would be happy to explain all of that to you in detail. So when you start talking about that kind of money, you're not talking usually about it sitting in one big pot. If it were, I think if there were priority issues that had to be dealt with right now, that would be a great place to turn to. But I agree with Council Member Nisley that it's good to have a cushion of money, because we don't know when that emergency is going to strike and then where that money is going to come from. If it truly were $3 million, we might say, gee, we could tap some of it. But it depends on where it sits and what we're talking about. So it's a very complex issue dealing with our budget. It's not just pick the money up and run.
Jennifer?
Sounds like a big pizza party to me. I think what you're hearing from all the candidates is that, it's good to be a little conservative. When you have some money in the bank, then you're prepared for a disaster. You're prepared for something to go wrong. You're prepared for escalating health care costs, which are increasingly an issue. And as we heard at last night's council meeting, we're going to be needing to put more and more money into health care for city employees because those costs increase every year. So it's important that we're prepared for that. Now, certainly if we see that next year we have a $4 million carryover and that amount is increasing from year to year, then certainly we would need to take a look at what we're doing with our budgeting and consider spending more of that. But I think probably one of the reasons that number looks so high is that the city has been planning for several major projects, and it's not just that they're trying to leave that money to grow and grow, because we need money to take care of these major gateway projects that are coming up. We need money to take care of the city's aging infrastructure. So it's important to save some money so we don't have to go in debt for every project that we want to undertake.
Thank you. Steve?
It's kind of difficult following along after this with being on the same committee as my committee member, Chris Nisley. But I think what she was saying is important to note, and that is that it really is more along the lines of 2.4 million, give or take, and that there are previous bills that we do have to be very, very cognizant of in terms of stewardship of that monies. And again, for emergencies, last year we had a derecho that wreaked havoc across the city, and the price tag for repairs and tree cuttings and things that took place throughout the city went up. We've got some other things that we're looking at that we're going to have to start planning for in terms of well repair, possibly new wells. Again, they may come out from different budgets, but as we're looking at some of the things down the road, this year alone, that carryover, it's not like when I was back in the Air Force 20 years ago, it seemed like at the end of the year there was all this spending frenzy that went on, and you started buying everything you can think of. Well, that's not what's going on with the city or city councils. That we are prioritizing and looking, where is this money most effectively spent, and especially for chimney repairs, well repairs, and planning ahead for things that could affect us this coming summer with weather changes.
Thank you. Michael Bart?
All right, thank you. I agree with I think everyone here that the $3 million is not really that much when you look at how much the city spends. At Monday's meeting, we were asked to spend 50% more on health costs, and it's an average of $2 to $3 million a year just on the health care for city employees. But if there was an overage, I would like to see a lot more money spent on regular street maintenance. I think we do a really good job on our big projects, but the smaller regular maintenance of roads with potholes is a big problem. You see the same ones on Madison Avenue and a lot of streets on the west side, and I'd like to see it spent more evenly because it seems like there's more attention to some roads and not the others. And I know the condition of just about all of the roads because I work at a pizza shop and I have 10 drivers reporting to me which ones are really bad and when they have flat tires and all of that. And another place I think we could spend more money is within the code office, because I don't know if they're doing everything that they're tasked with, and I'm not sure what the problem is and if money would fix it or not, but I think that is something that we could look into.
Thank you. For our next question, Jennifer, you're on first, right? The next one, all right. And we'll turn to Sarah Bromfield with the Athens Messenger. Sarah?
How you think relations with the city and OU currently are, and if you think they need improving, what steps you might take to improve that relationship?
I think in large part the university and the city work well together. We have many collaborations and partnerships, but I think certainly there's always room for improvement. One example of a collaboration is the upcoming Beautification Day this Sunday, during which I'll be leading a team of Far East Side residents and OU students in cleaning up litter along the bike path on the Far East Side. And I think anything that we can do to get students out into the neighborhoods to experience real life outside the ivory tower is wonderful. As a college student myself, my community service experience was a pivotal part of my education, and I think it's really important for everyone to experience life outside the residence hall, life outside the dormitory, or wherever they may be living. Students come to Athens to learn, and that can be a very well-rounded experience. And I would like to see, continued collaboration and working a little more with code, of course, to see what we can do about some of the litter issues in a lot of the student rental neighborhoods.
Thank you, Jennifer. And go ahead, Michael Bart.
Can you quickly restate the question one more time?
Yeah, how do you think the relationship between the city and OU currently is, and if it needs to improve, what would you do?
Okay, great. I think that our institutions work really well together with the police department, and when we had a water main break on North Congress, I think the university assisted in that. Those power outages, they come together, I think, but there is a problem of attitude. Some people think town versus gown, and the students need to get out more in the city, and the residents need to see it from the students' perspective. For instance, trash is definitely a big problem, and when you see as a student trashing their house, there's no excuse for that, but the house they live in might not be taken care of, the maintenance might not be up, so it's hard for the student to respect the space they're living in on off-campus housing if the code's not really doing their job and making sure the house is, up to standards. So, I think that they should, there's no excuse for a messy house, but if you're living in a house where there's water coming in, your basement's flooding, which almost every house on Brown Avenue, the basements do flood. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but it's just, 30 seconds. I don't think I need to use my 30 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Michael McSteen.
I happen to think that the relationship between OU and city administration is very good. I know that the mayor works hard with this administration to communicate back and forth the concerns they have, and I know the two police chiefs work very close together in trying to coordinate both departments. So I think that they have been making a concerted effort to be more understanding of the students and have the university understand more of what the city has to go through and has to pay for and various things. So I think that they actually do have a very good relationship at this current time. Now obviously, as we talk about things such as litter and trash and what the students do, you're talking about behavior of certain students, and that's hard to regulate in any way and hard to prevent or even stop. So those things will always kind of happen, and I know from being an OU alum, and many of us are or have worked at the university at one point or another, that we do tend to tolerate a lot more of those behaviors, but they're getting out of control in some of the street parties and so forth. But I think that the administration and departments have been working together to try to at least even that out and calm it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, thank you. I too would agree that I think the university and the city have experienced a time of improving relations, and I would credit part of that to the leadership of the mayor and also the president of the university. Do they always agree? No. You know, we're still looking at Bobcat Lane. We talk about it once a year or so. But are there other things that have happened? One of them that's significant in the past year has been the fire truck purchase, which we needed. 85% of our calls for the city were to buildings that were greater than 4 stories, most of which were on university property. And the university agreed to help with that $1.2 million fire truck purchase. They agreed to pay $50,000 a year for 5 years. It's a significant contribution, a significant step. Other instances of where the university and the community, I think, are working well together would also be then what grew out of that fire truck purchase, and it's what's called the Memorandum of Understanding Committee. And they are working on different areas, transportation, trying to coordinate things better. We have 8 different bus routes through town. We're trying to get that a better job done of that so we can expand services. We're also looking at planning. Could we be doing more planning together? Could we be visioning for the community? Could we be more inclusive, I think, between university students and the community? I know we've worked for that in the past. I think we could improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Ron?
Well, okay, the university, I think, is an absolutely essential resource in this community. It's critical to our existence. It's a great university, and I think there are many, many ways in which the university interacts very effectively with the community. We have students who come from the university and work in the Athens County Historical Society Museum, and they're phenomenal. We couldn't survive without them. I see wonderful relations between faculty and staff and various people that I interact with and work with. I think that overall the relations between the university and the city are quite good. Could they be better? Absolutely. Are there some places where the university and the city could sit down together and talk things through and work for the advantage of both sides where they're currently not? Absolutely. So I think that the quick response is I don't think we're in bad shape. I think we're in fairly decent shape in the relationship with the university. I would like it to be better. I think there are times when both sides need to step back and say, okay, we're not listening to each other. We need to talk, and we need to talk honestly and openly. And so I think it can be improved.
Thank you. Steve?
You know, I moved here in 1978, and 1998, sorry. Not that long. 1998, and it's interesting, in my time in Athens, I can honestly say that I have seen kind of a paradigm shift into where I see stronger and stronger relationships between our university and our city. The Joint Police Advisory Council is an example of that. It's a council that there are members from all walks of life that serve on that committee, people from the different neighborhoods, neighborhood associations. We have both police chiefs who serve on that. We have students who serve on it. We have people who work in different functions in the university who serve on the Joint Police Advisory Council, and working hard to identify not only areas where there may be need for improvements with relationships between town gown, which I hate that term, by the way, but that are working to improve. We've also had the first city safety tour that came out of JPACT, where we have students who can ride on it and who are pointing out to both police chiefs as well as city service safety director, as well as the city engineer, areas where we may need to improve safety in the city. So it can be students voicing their opinion about safety, not just residents voicing their opinion about safety. I think that there's been a number of improvements. Another area where we're going to start looking at possibly putting together an MOU would be the Commission on Disabilities teaming up with the Disabilities Services on OU campus. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, we're ready for questions from you, audience members, and candidates have your order there. It's going to be Steve, Chris, Jennifer, etc., just so you're all prepared. Here's the first question. How do you feel about annexation of outlying areas, such as the corridor between Athens and Albany?
You're talking about the sewer annexation of,
well, annexation,
or just annexation in general.
The land in general, one that is incorporating into the city.
My thoughts on annexation is there needs to be a plan as opposed to just random annexation of different areas into the city. The comprehensive plan spells out pretty clearly options for annexation and where we could possibly grow. As a matter of fact, we just annexed in the piece of property that was the old Columbia Gas site, which kind of filled in one of the last wedges. And the plan, that's a plan that's been in place for a long time, but it's adding to, I think in a responsible way, city properties that could be developed and lend itself to, again, economic development, to where we can possibly bring some company or business in who would expand that in a responsible way.
Chris?
Thank you. Okay. I think that the question of annexation is once again one of balance. There are some areas that the city has annexed into the city where it made sense. They were contiguous to our city limits, and it makes sense to hook up to sewer and water so we have safe conditions for our citizens. And under certain circumstances, there might be areas where we might be able to annex. And that's always, on the one hand, an interesting prospect for the city because of the possibility, if it is a business or manufacturing venture, then there's a potential for more income. Along with that goes, though, when you build, and you build for businesses, you have costs that are far greater for the infrastructure than they would be for residential areas. So that's the balance. And then we also live in part of a larger community called Athens County, and we want to be working on a plan with them on what makes sense, what areas make sense to annex. So I think there are all those considerations. So under certain circumstances, yes, annexation could be an interesting possibility for the city and the community.
I think, again, we need to consider the benefits and the possible drawbacks of annexation in each case. Looking at potential increased revenue from taxes would be a benefit for potential annexation, but we also need to consider, where are the lands that we're going to be annexing? Are they contiguous? How far away are they? Does it make sense for us to annex them? Would it be stretching the city's capacity for sewage and for water service? So we need to consider, will we be able to provide the services that those residents need, and how will the city and those residents both benefit? So again, we need to just weigh the costs and the benefits, and I think each situation is probably unique. So again, also the long-range plan is important. We need to consider how big we want our city to be, and where we want the boundaries of this city to be within our county.
Similar to Chris, I would generally be in favor of annexation. However, it would be something you would have to study to look at the pros and cons and the cost benefits. Obviously, when you do annex, you are taking on more property, and that brings in more tax base, and you can generate some income in that way. But you are then stretching services such as police and fire, which you have to have a satellite police station or satellite fire station, because I would also be concerned about the safety of those residents as well. And if we're going to fold them into the city, we want to make sure that those areas are covered, as well as how do you work with the county on separating that tax base from them and bringing it into the city. So it has to be something that you'd have to study and look at and see the cost benefits. I don't think you can just say, oh yes, in favor or not, without some discussion as to those city services and then the quality of those services being stretched as well.
Thank you. Michael Bart?
Okay. Now I kind of know what it feels like to be on city council, because I'm already agreeing with every single one of what everyone said on this question. I think growth can be good, but it has to be planned growth. We have to really look into everything if we can afford it, from police, like you said, sewers if we have the capacity for it, roads. I know we just annexed a new area, and roads are a big problem to that, getting those roads up to code. So just, can we really afford it, and do the residents there want to be annexed? But once we look at all of the questions, then yeah, it's definitely something that I could be for, but I have to know more about it.
Thank you.
Very interesting question. The concept of annexation is something I've done some thinking about, because if I can reach the vision that I have for this city, we're going to need more physical space for all the businesses that are going to come into this place. I'm telling you that we can expand, we can create more money, we can create more jobs, and I absolutely believe there will come a time when we will need to expand our city limits. And I think if people are open to that, we should absolutely think in that direction. We need to think progressively toward expansion, toward the notion that these other areas produce tax base that will help the rest of us. And I also believe that by using our resources to create meaningful businesses that create jobs, real jobs that pay real money, not low income, but $50,000 a year and more, those kinds of jobs, we're going to need more space. So I wouldn't rule out anything. I think to try to take that, without considering the big picture is really kind of dangerous. I think what a lot of these folks have said is true. We have to be careful. But I don't think we should rule out any possibility, because we're going to grow. We're going to go there.
Thank you. Here's our next question, and let's see. Well, you've got the orders in front of you, so I won't rattle through them. To help artists make a living, will you create a continuing program of public art for Athens?
Wow.
Well, let's see. Number 2 is Michael Bart.
Yes. Well, the arts are something that's very important to me. My wife in the audience, Emily Beveridge, is a local artist, also is a resident at the Dairy Barn, and that's something I do value a lot that makes Athens unique, is our arts. I'm in the music community. There's a lot of musicians, and it's really, really difficult to make a living as an artist. And I know the struggles, because me and my wife, that's our life. We're trying to make it as artists, so I would do everything I can to try to make that possible and have more public art, because it's just makes the city look nicer. I know our bus system is looking for a revamp, maybe renaming themselves, maybe having a new mascot. And here's an idea. What if we call it Art Athens Rapid Transit, and every 2 years we put a new mural on the side of every city bus, and it's just a display for artists.
Jennifer?
Yes, I think the arts are very important, and I love when I travel to other cities seeing art in public spaces, whether it's a huge physical installation in the parks in Chicago or poetry on the metro system. So I think that that's certainly something that I would be behind. I'm not sure what such a program would look like, but I would love the opportunity to work with local artists to build such a program.
Thank you.
Well, I am in favor of keeping all the arts and expanding any arts program. As you can see, as you walk through the library, that's a beautiful display of the guitars and portraits from Passion Works, and I absolutely adore that program, and I take visitors to that store and make them buy at least a flower and so forth. But and so I think that's what we have to try to do, not like Michael was mentioning. It's hard to be an artist because you have to try to get money from your art, and you have to be supportive of it. So I think if we develop a culture of supporting the arts and supporting artists and buying their works and doing those types of things, that would be great. But those are things that you have to work in a private public partnerships with. I don't think the city can do everything. I really do like what they are doing at Arts West, and having that there is at least a nice focal point for art in our community, and it's a way to generate more discussion about it and look at how we can expand areas. But I would love to see more art being displayed around town and bigger installations and so forth. And so I'm in favor.
Thank you. Steve?
Can I have the question repeated, please?
Shirley, go right ahead. Oh, that's right, I'm the one who's repeating. Fine, I'm just a little slow on that one. To help artists make a living, will you create a continuing program of public art for Athens?
Well, we already have some programs, the AMAC, and I'm not quite sure what the person is referring to. I'm an artist. Obviously, I love art. I want to see art everywhere. But I also don't want to see art imposed on people in situations where they don't want it. So when you start with art, you're always in the question of what's going to be acceptable to everybody. I'd love to see art everywhere. I spent a month in France. There was art everywhere. Literally, you couldn't walk 10 feet without running into a sculpture or something. So I think, depending on how it's done, I would love to see artists supported here. But I also think that Athens could easily become an arts mecca. I don't think we've done enough to advertise ourselves, to promote all the great things that are here in Athens, including our artwork. And I think artists could live here and sell here, and we could attract more people here to buy art. But it's going to take a different vision of how we're going to move forward with the city and how we're going to move forward with economic development. So am I supportive of the arts? Absolutely, 100%. I'm for artists. I'm not quite sure what the question is asking in terms of how would I put something together. I would do everything I could to support the arts.
Thank you, Ron. Steve?
Thanks. Okay, skipped. I'm a member of the Athens Area Citizens for the Arts, which is a new organization that's just started up, and actually kind of came out of the AEP 3 or 4 rather, which is the Arts Economic Prosperity 4 study, which shows that for Athens in and of itself, Athens County in particular, $24 million in revenue, which was generated in 2011. Is there an area for the arts here in Athens? Absolutely. I look at the Armory. I've said this before. I said it 2 years ago. I look at the Armory now, and I still see a Center for Performing Arts. I look at it and I go, this could be a 450-seat venue that we could be bringing more arts into the city. Could there be a rotating museum of art inside this building as well? Absolutely. I think that is one of the gems of Athens that I think we really need to play up, and I think that is an area that we need to do a better job of providing for our area artists, to give them venues. Just this year alone, Ohio Brew Week has teamed up with the Athens Area Citizens for the Arts, and they're having an art venue, actually several art venues throughout Ohio Brew Week, to merge the two nonprofit organizations together, which I think is a big plus to showcase the arts and to provide a venue, an outlet for our area artists to be able to showcase their works. So absolutely, I'm for the arts in this city. It's part of our culture.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a hard question for anyone to be against, I think, because the arts do. They improve the quality of our life. They're essential, not only visual arts, but music, you know, our concert under the elms and things like that. And I would like to also echo my appreciation for the Athens Arts Associated Commission. Councilmember Butler serves on that committee. They've done a lot of work on looking at different projects around the city. We also have taken part in the Percentage for Arts program, so the art and plantings and landscaping and the artwork in the tunnel that is under the roundabout are a result of some of our support of the arts with our larger projects. I also see it as possibly an ideal opportunity for the university and the city to be working together, and maybe other private citizens as well. And, you know, could we be finding an area? Could we locate grant money for Steve's idea and others who've thought about revitalizing the armory or a building on the ridges? You know, could we expand some of that and work in partnership to build the arts in a stronger way?
Thank you, Chris. Ed, we have time for one more question, would you say? It's your judgment call. Okay. And let's see, Ron Luce, you're first on this one, so just to make sure that everybody has a chance to know that. All right. If elected or re-elected, what kinds of things would you do to continue in order to improve accessibility in the city of Athens?
Okay, another great question. I've talked about this previously. Obviously, I think whenever we make street repairs, we need to take into consideration that there are access points for people who who are confined to wheelchairs. I think we need to make sure that our sidewalks are in excellent condition at all times so that people can negotiate them, regardless of whether they're physically able or if they're elderly and need a cane or if they're riding in a wheelchair, whatever the case may be. This should be part of our planning and everything that we do. I think that we have a transportation system that is developing, and that needs to be designed in such a way to take care of people who have disabilities or issues with getting around. We need to be conscious every time we design anything in the city to make sure that we're thinking about all our citizens, not just those people who are easily able to negotiate your standard old sidewalks and streets. So it's got to become part of our thinking, part of our planning, and every single thing that we do.
Thank you. Michael McSteen.
Well, I think this gets back to my opening statement about why I was interested in getting back on council. Looking at the sidewalk going down Lancaster, I walk the city all the time, and I'm a very big proponent of pedestrian traffic. And not only when we have the sidewalks, but we have to make sure that the landowners maintain them and make sure that they don't use gravel on the driveway that goes into the sidewalk, making it nearly impossible for a wheelchair or any kind of someone with a disability trying to get through that, making sure that trash cans are off to the side of the sidewalk and not blocking those issues. And so it goes to a little bit of our planning and our forward thinking when we are doing development projects and street projects to repair the street. But we also have to make sure that we enforce the codes that are on the books. There are codes out there that require you to have sidewalks that are in good shape and maintain them and not debris on them. And so we certainly want to look at intersections where people might be going in and off the street and onto the sidewalk, and looking at cutouts for sidewalks, and certainly improving the transportation system as well.
Thank you. Steve?
Again, this is an area that I have immense amount of passion for. I'm like the squeaky wheel on city council, to where every time a project comes up, I am constantly saying, we need to consistently look at what is essentially called the universal design, where we need to have an all-inclusive environment. Our city needs to be all-inclusive for all people. It's literally, termed as being cradle to grave. Not only thinking about equal access for individuals with disabilities, looking at equal access for people of all ages, and it's something that I have, identified. The city has done a great job in identifying a number of projects that need to take place. Southside Park is a prime example that will soon have ADA approved rubberized surface at the playground area at the Southside Park, to where now that will become an all-inclusive park. We still need to do the same things similar to this up at the Highland Park area around the playground there. I've spoken to a number of different people while I serve on the Commission on Disabilities. There's a number of areas in the city where an individual who is wheelchair bound or is a walker or whatever will never be able to see some of the beautiful sights of Athens without some assistance. A prime example is the pond at Sells Park. We need to do better. We need to do a better job of making sure that our city is all-inclusive to everyone, and every step of the planning all along the way from South Richland Avenue, as the plan goes forward, it becomes a complete street. We're very cognizant of curb cuts and equal access.
Thank you. Michael Barth?
Yes. I agree with everything that's been said so far. We need to do as much as we can to keep our sidewalks accessible. Also, maybe look into audible sidewalks, so people that can't see can know when to cross. Just look into if there's enough of a demand for that, even if it's not permanent residents, people that are visiting our town. We're an international university here, so that's an area to look at. I like what Steve was saying about the parks needing to be more accessible, because it's one of our greatest resources here is the parks, and everyone should be able to enjoy them. And I think everything that was already said by other candidates that I'd like to say, but yeah, we just need to do as much as possible. Look at Americans with Disabilities and the Act, and maybe go above and beyond what it's recommending in certain places, because we're a special community here, and we can take the lead. We don't necessarily need to be followers. So,
thank you. Chris?
I had an interesting experience when I went door to door last week and met a young couple who I believe lives on Sunnyside or Maplewood, and they said, we love the new curb cuts on the south side of the street. Can you do the same on the north side so we can get the, the strollers off the curbs? And it's true. I know same kind of thing when my mom was in a wheelchair and we'd go to the Methodist church and trying to get down the curbs there. We need to do a better job of what we're doing, always conscious of it. I would also encourage everyone that it is in the long-range planning, but it's in the everyday issues too. I know Steve and I have grappled every once in a while. I'll say, please call Kroger's. They have things all over the sidewalks. And if somebody tried to get in to Kroger's or to C&E in a wheelchair or a walker, they wouldn't be able to do it. And I think when enough citizens make a comment, you can make an individual difference, and we can improve everybody's cognizance of that and wanting to have easy access at all times, at all places, if we can do that. We're working with the city in a number of ways. Oh, I only have 30 seconds left. We have a new bus with a wheelchair ramp that is on the front of the bus, or so that it makes it accessible and a smoother ride. We are working on the curbs with safe routes to schools. We do have a bicycle and pedestrian plan that was officially adopted by the city, where we're doing things to make it more pedestrian friendly. And we now have a complete sidewalk inventory of the entire city, based in part on volunteers and city staff who worked to get that moving, so we will be getting the repairs done in an efficient way. Thank you.
And Jennifer.
One thing I would suggest is that in addition to having an annual streets tour, which the City Council has coming up this Saturday, it would be a wise idea to have an annual sidewalks tour in which we actually took to the streets and walked around to see where there are issues, and that may go along with the inventory that Chris mentioned. But I think it's really important to get out there and see what's out there, whether it's a stroller that bumps up against a crack in the sidewalk, or a bicyclist trying to avoid the heavy traffic on State Street that by pulling over onto the sidewalk, or someone who is using a wheelchair. There are lots of different ways that people travel around our city on a day-to-day basis, and we need to make sure it's accessible to everyone. So that's one of my suggestions, and I would like to see the city work more closely with property owners to ensure proper upkeep and repair of sidewalks, and potentially putting in more sidewalks where there are none, such as my neighborhood, which is an old subdivision, so we have no sidewalks. In many places, the space is a prohibitive issue, but we can certainly do an assessment to see if it would be possible to put in sidewalks where we need them.
Thank you. Well, it's leaning toward the 8 o'clock, and so there are a number of fine questions in here, but we don't have time to do anymore. And of course, we'll all recognize with 6 candidates instead of 2, we can't go through as many questions, and that's just the fact of the matter. So we're ready for 2-minute closing statements, and let me just review the order because you made a random drawing something like an hour and 15 minutes ago, and I've got the results and you may not remember. So for the closing statements, Chris Knisely is first, second will be Michael Bart, and then Michael McSteen. Fourth will be Steve Patterson, Ron Luce, and Jennifer Cochran. That was your random drawing. Okay, so Chris Knisely, 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you, Ellsworth. Many of us have personal heroes, and 2 of my family heroes are on generations on either side of me. My son served in Afghanistan and Iraq in service to the country, and my father was part of a community association, so I'd sometimes go door to door with him when he was going to neighbors to talk about issues. Working here in Athens and getting to know citizens, I'm humbled by the way so many of you work every day as heroes to make this a strong and caring community. There are citizens who've helped with the safe routes to school, organizations that have assisted with improvements to our parks, other groups who have committed to beautification and litter control in the city, the Shade Tree Commission, the Disabilities Commission, Project Plant, town hall meetings, you name it. There are a lot of organizations in this city. My desire to be reelected builds on my experience in council and on building of coalitions with citizens, with the city, the university, the county, and the state. I brought tonight a handout, and we have some of these in back. And I hope you'll take one so that you can see some of my work and my involvement with different organizations. I bring a 5-year record in service to the council, and will continue to work as a champion for Athens with the help of your vote on May 7th. And thank you again to the League and the library.
Thank you. Michael Bart.
Okay, borrow that microphone. Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Obviously, thank the library and League of Women Voters for having us, and I'm really glad that we could get together and have this exchange. These local elections are really important. Not enough people vote in them, not enough people get involved, so it's great that you're all here paying attention, and also to the media and people reading about this at home. There's a few things we can cover. One of them is the environment, and that's something that's very important to this city and to me personally. And one idea I have is I think people throw away way too many plastic bags, and if we were to introduce a small 3-cent tax per bag, that might do something to reduce the usage of plastic bags. Lost my place. I also want to add to the statement that I will have a unique voice on council. I just turned 30 last week, and I'm going to be the youngest candidate, which in a way is sad. I wish that there would be more people running. In 2 years, I hope that there's 10 or 12 people at this forum, and there's a lot more people getting their voices involved. I'd like to see more people at the meetings, and if I get elected, I'd like to include a lot more people in the conversation. And another side of Athens that I get to see that not everyone gets to see is I've been living in 4 different rental houses over the past 10 years of various quality, from Mound and Brown to Columbia and South May. So I've seen all the different sides of Athens, and I'd like to bring that perspective to the council. So I hope you will consider voting Michael Bart. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael McSteen.
I would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the library for holding this event. I think that everyone here tonight recognizes that we all say the same things. We all have the same concerns. And my time on council in '99, I found that even the Republicans on council were very moderate. Everybody has a concern for Athens and really wants the best for it. And actually, I'm really proud to sit up here listening to everyone. I think we have actually a good slew of candidates, and it's going to be a tough decision for everyone to make a choice. I think everyone here has concerns for Athens and has Athens' interest at heart. I hope to, as a council member, try to prod the city a little bit more to enforce some of the codes, and I really want to try to beautify our entranceways, our sidewalks, and look at ways that we can make Athens a unique city, has its own character. Everybody, when they enter onto Richland Avenue and cross the bridge there and enter into the university, you recognize that you're someplace special. They have nice decorative lighting and nice features coming in. And I would like to see that spread out throughout the city, on Richland Avenue, on Stimson, on Union Street, and have a concerted effort to try to make this a unique city and have people want to come here and live here and work here, so that the future of Athens is strong and vital. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Patterson.
Thank you. I want to thank the library for hosting this, as well as the League of Women Voters for having us again this year. And I want to thank you for coming, because that's meaningful. It's meaningful to all of us, the questions that were raised. 2 years ago when I sat in the seat and was running for my first time, I ran on a platform of basically three things. I was interested in improving OU city relationships. I was interested in safety, and I was interested in economic development. And I believe that my track record so far on city council has proven that what I mentioned and what I brought up as a platform 2 years ago is still something that I'm fighting for and have fought for, I believe, successfully with things like the Joint Police Advisory Council, with having a city safety tour, which didn't exist prior to my coming on city council. Again, that's establishing relationships with OU and the city and keeping them strong, because we all live in the same environment. It's not like an us and them. It's not a town gown. It's an all-inclusive community that we live in. Economic development, again, the ordinance that I pushed through to kind of correct some of the things that needed to be corrected with the vending permit and code. And again, I see that as economic development. It's giving individuals a chance to really kind of strike out if they think that being in food services is where they want to be. I think at the other end of that spectrum is CGI. On city council, we worked to make sure that there could be some credits to go forward for bringing in a big company that's going to be serving the city well. And then for safety, for the safety issues, again, I look at that as a JPAC issue, to where we're working hard with the city safety tours to improve the environment. And there's still a lot more to do, but I also fold into that the safety of individuals with disabilities, which I take a lot of pride in working hard for those who need to have equal access, not just equal access, safe access, to be able to get into buildings across our city streets and across from one side of town to another. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Ron Luce.
Thank you. I also want to thank the League of Women Voters and the Athens Public Library. And I want to say that tonight we've talked about a lot of issues. But what I want to suggest is dealing with individual issues is important, but if we don't know where we're going at all times, then we're just dealing with issues. So I want to suggest that we need a vision for this city, a vision that is 10 years, 20 years out. We need to know that we have the leadership, the passion, the focus, the willingness to learn, the ability to seek advice, to articulate that vision and develop success. We need to seek public input and support. We need to improve our infrastructure. We need better code enforcement. We need our code enforcement enforced. We need to hold our city council and our entire city administration accountable for what they do. We need to have safety in the city. We need not just adequate safety, we need excellent safety. We need to identify, celebrate, and promote all the fantastic things that go on in this community. We are already a great community, but we can be even greater, folks. We need to set priorities. We need to seek economic development and jobs, particularly clean jobs. We need to encourage that development. There are many things that we could be doing that we aren't doing enough of right now. We could be doing a lot more. We need to respect all of our citizens, their rights to privacy, cleanliness, safety, and make sure that we follow our own rules and guidelines for making sure that that happens and that every single citizen in this community leads a great life, a comfortable life, and a safe life.
Thank you, Ron. Jennifer Cochran.
I hope to build a community of wellness in Athens by working on issues of sustainability, improved walkways and bikeways, increased opportunities for recreation, physical activity, and more. As I've been campaigning, I've met with a number of community members and talked with them about issues from street repair to small animal husbandry, from composting to wellness programs in our public schools. My education, background, and experience make me well suited to serve on Athens City Council. I'm skilled in grant writing and managed a $3 million budget for the Center for International Studies. You can pick up one of my flyers at the back of the room, find out more about me on Facebook, or chat with me after this session. Thank you for coming tonight to share in the ongoing dialogue about continuing to build this community.